people who are listening, we have Saurabh Nigam with us. Saurabh right now is the Vice President at Omidyar Capital. And the few things that would describe Saurabh very well is he's a human capital specialist, thought leader, speaker. You can see him in a lot of forums, creating an impact on people. He's a startup enthusiast for sure. And he believes in setting up innovative people practices. He's been the HR 40 under 40. Also, this was People Matters, right, Saurabh?
Yeah, 40 under 40 was Jombay. People Matters was Are You in the List? Yeah.
All right. So Saurabh is in both the list, the People Matter and the Jombay 40 under 40. Wow. He holds his postgraduate from XLRI. This was 2007 for him. And he is also one of the one among the first 10 people globally to hold the SPHR, GPHR and HR PMP certification from Shram USA. So that's sort of for you guys. I think there's a long this. But yeah, I think and he was the companies that he's worked for, the entire story of when I think a brand like the e-commerce was picking up, Saurabh was a part of in leading the human capital function for Snapdeal for a very, very long time, and then he took a plunge and got into something interesting. So Saurabh, welcome again.
Thank you.
Would you like to talk, help us and the audience know a bit more about your organization and what are you guys into?
Sure. Absolutely.
Before that, I have one point. So all of this with an engineering background, right? I want to reiterate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like many other people in my generation, I am an engineer by graduation, electronics engineer from Pune University. Did my share of coding for about 3 years. So yeah, I do understand how coding works, though my experience of coding dates way back to 2002, 2003. But I must say that, that background of engineering, especially around coding, has helped a lot, not just in the HR journey which I've had for the last 30, 14 years, but overall as from a personal perspective as well. I think I almost see coding as a life skill, right? It just helps you structure your thought, it helps you in your decision making. So definitely an engineer at heart, a coder at heart for sure. That's what it is.
I just wanted to reiterate on that because, having solving people problems requires a lot of different set of skills, and coding is more analytical. It's not psychological. There is no soul in coding, right? It's very pure mind, head first. But from there, pivoting to this kind of a role, I think then that would. So now you're an expert in both mind and heart. That's one way to look at it. But yeah, I think we can go back to questions, Ketan.
Kind of you to call me an expert. I don't think I'm an expert. It's still a journey I'm on. But yeah, I do understand both the worlds.
But I must call out. I have not seen. Sorry. I think there was a network lag. So I must call out. I've never seen Senthil so happy in any of the conversations.
That's easy to connect.
Yes.
Right. So, okay, then about Omidyar Network India, we are an organization. We call ourselves an impact investment firm. What that basically means is, we focus on in making investments into both for-profit organizations as well as doing grants to non-profit organizations. And the core theme around which we make our investments or do our grants is around impact, right? So we really focus on making sure that we are partnering and working alongside entrepreneurs and businesses and non-profit organizations, which are focused on creating impact on the lives of people in the country, right? So that's really what, in a nutshell, what our organization does. We do it in 6 different verticals. Our investments for grants are in 6 different verticals, and they are education, technology, financial inclusion, property rights, government and citizen engagement, and digital identity. And so as I speak to you, we have close to 90 plus active portfolio organizations in the country across these 6 verticals. The way we operate and the way we are structured is providing financial capital is only one part of our work. We also partner with our entrepreneurs in their journey to create these beautiful, lovely organizations, which is creating an impact on the on the ground. By providing them support around pretty much the entire gamut of functional areas like Marcom, legal, finance, human capital, which I lead. Right, so it's almost like an end-to-end service which we provide to our entrepreneurs, and we truly believe that the real heroes in the ecosystem are the entrepreneurs we work with. And we are just facilitators, in the ecosystem in order to create impact. Right, so that's really what we do as an organization.
So I will come to the first question, Saurabh, and this has a lot of connect to the current conversation everybody is having around. Now, the first question is, what challenges do you think the CXOs and possibly these entrepreneurs or the young bunch of people who are leading from the front dealing with post-COVID when it comes to culture, especially with the world going remote? What do you think are the challenges that people are facing?
Sure.
Especially the CXOs and the young entrepreneurs and the leaders.
Sure. So basic, Ketan, and I'm sure you will agree with me that the basic human need, we are a social animal, right? And the basic human need is to have that connect with each other, right? And I think that's what makes us what we are, right? And I think that's really has taken a beating, so to say, in these difficult times with all the teams moving in or remotely and working remotely. And I think that's where the biggest challenge lies. That how do you maintain the connective tissue in the organization? Amongst people, amongst teams, especially when everybody is working from different parts of the country, different parts of the world, right? And to me, that's really the biggest challenge which the CXOs and the CHROs are facing today. And I'm not going down the path of managing your business, maintaining your business, because we're focusing only on culture. So if I start with that, right? I think the fact that, and I'm a huge proponent of managing by walking around, and that is only possible when you're sitting in office, right? You get up from your desk and go walk around, speak to people, have those conversations to ensure that you understand the pulse of your team, pulse of the organization, but also connect with them. Now that's missing. Obviously, you can't do that on a Zoom call. You can't do that when you're sitting from home. So how do you maintain the connective tissue within your team? How do you ensure that you understand the pulse of your organization, pulse of your team, pulse of your people, and how do you, if I may use that word, how do you make sure that in spite of all the technology which you're using, in spite of all the Zoom calls which you're doing, you still come across as humane, right? I think that's very, very important. It's not. How do we make sure that it's not a transactional relationship which we are moving into, which is based on Zoom calls, which is based on technology, right? I think that really, in a nutshell, is how I would define as the biggest challenge which we are facing at this point of time, across board.
So that brings me to the second subsequent question here linked to that. Now, have you seen this remote working bringing in certain positive changes that we as HR folks or business guys have been looking at for very, very long for a change to happen? But now the CXOs actually are approaching that matter related to organization culture. Do you see a silver lining?
Oh, absolutely. So, Ketan, you would know this, right? And you would know this that till say about 4 months back, before we moved into these difficult times, the entire notion of remote working, or flexible working hours, or working from home, while it was spoken a lot about in different parts and different industries and different organizations, and I'm going to talk from an Indian context, I don't think it was prevalent as much as possibly we HR professionals possibly would have liked to see, or even team would have liked to see, right? So, and it was definitely not consistent, right? And there were different reasons and issues. There were, question marks in the heads of managers and leaders that, will the productivity go down, and if everybody is working remotely and things like that. I think what these difficult times have done is that notion of people being productive when working remotely and working from their homes, I think that has been thrown out of the window. I think that has been the biggest silver lining here, that people can be productive irrespective of where they're based at. I think that's been the biggest learning, so to say, across board, right? And I think that to me, that's the biggest positive which has come out of this. And now, if you really take it a step further, and if you go and speak to individuals and people, and I've been doing that for the last few months, not just within my organization, but across the portfolio organization, obviously there are positives which have come out of it, right? So if I take my own example, in my career, right, and the last 13, 14 years, I have not spent as much time with my family, that includes my parents, my wife, and now my kid as well, as I have done in last 4 months, right? And I think that's a big positive, right? And I feel fortunate, because I also do understand that not everybody possibly would be as fortunate as I am, that I have my family right next to me and living with me. But I think that's the other piece, which is really that the mental peace which you get when you are able to spend quality time with your family. I think that has been enabled because of the fact that we've moved into these difficult times and we've been forced to stay indoors. Let's put it that way, right? So there's definitely a silver lining there as well. Third piece, which I would say is, I certainly believe, and possibly you may think that I'm contradicting here, but I certainly believe that the fact that we have all moved into remote working, while it is a challenge, that it is posing a challenge to maintain the connective tissue in the team, but I also see that the emphasis and the effort which is being put by not just the leaders, but the teams across board to figure out ways and means to stay connected with each other. I think that wasn't the case when everybody was sitting inside the office. So just like a very, very simple example. If we were to do any activity or an engagement event in office, say 4 months back, the rate of adoption of that piece or that activity versus the rate of adoption of what I'm trying to do now, even though it is much simpler, much easier, and it's not rocket science, and it's not even innovative, so to say, is much higher, right? So the point I'm trying to make is say that the realization in the minds of people that it is important to stay connected with each other, to stay connected with each other beyond just the professional definition of work, I think is another silver lining. So those three, I would say, definitely are things which has moved the needle in the positive direction, if I may say, or as you said, are the silver linings which I see in today's time.
Wow, thank you. Very interesting. So what do you think this means for the HR fraternity? What all things would it redefine as an HR leader, as a young HR leader? What do you think it means for the overall HR fraternity? What more, what different, what new should we adopt, get accustomed to, and should focus on?
Sure. So first thing first, Ketan, I don't think, and a lot of people have asked me this, right? Do you think that, remote working is the in thing, and, this is the new normal, and, we're never going to go back to the real office world? I kind of disagree to that. I don't think that's, we will ever be in a situation where 100% or majority of the people are going to be remote working forever. That's not going to happen. And the reason that's not going to happen is I'll not go to the business side of it. I'll still stick to the human side of it, which is I would love to do this conversation sitting face to face with you guys. Let's put it this way, right? And that, I think that will never go away, right? And the reason, at least it's in our life, it's not going to go away for sure. And the reason it's not going to go away is because that's our inherent need, right? I want to meet Ketan, I want to meet Senthil, shake hands, sit face to face, and have this conversation. And that piece is never going to go away, at least in our lifetime. That's what So I think what the new normal would look like is definitely there would be much more acceptance to the fact that people have this need to work remotely, right? Whether it's because of their personal reasons, because of the professional reasons, whatever may be the case, and there will be a far more acceptance to that. That's a given, right? Which also means that far more number of people would be working remotely compared to what it was the case 3-4 months ago. It will not be. I don't think it will continue the way it is for sure. Now, what that means is, as HR professionals, the luxury or the liberty which we had, where 100% or majority of the people were under one roof, even though they might be geographically spread out in different offices, that's gonna go away, right? So more and more we're gonna move away, wherein we're gonna see a split of people working across different locations, working across different environments. I think the biggest challenge which an HR professional is gonna face is the fact that everybody used to be in office meant that there was a homogeneous environment in which all of us were working when we were in office, right? Now that's going to change, because the moment you have even 50% of your population working remotely from different places, means that each one of them are possibly working in a different environment. And I always use this example because I've heard this live from teams in our portfolio in my organization. Working from home for a 25-year-old bachelor is very different from working from home for a father of two, or for a mother of two, 35, 40 years old, right? Different challenges, different environments, different things which you face. Now, as an HR professional, therefore, how do you create a mechanism to maintain the connective tissue for people who are in different environments at any given point of time, is one of the biggest challenges we're going to face, right? It was very easy when everybody was under one roof, under one environment. You could think of interventions, you could think of things which you could do because everybody was under in the same environment. So just as an example, if I were to think about running a team engagement activity at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning, and to expect that everybody is going to turn up is foolhardy, right? Because I will not be able, I should not assume possibly that, as I said, a father of two or a mother of two would possibly be able to engage at 10 a.m. on a Friday morning simply because their kids might have a virtual class, right? And I need to be cognizant of that. Simply to acknowledge that I can possibly set up a meeting beyond 5 p.m. on any weekday. I should understand that may not happen simply because the environment people are working in is very, very different, right? So as HR professionals, how do you make sure that you create your processes, policies, mechanisms, or even culture where people understand, where leaders and managers understand that the context or the environment of individuals have changed, and therefore there is a need for us to retune ourselves in terms of how we define our work, how do we define our ways of working. I think that to me is the biggest challenge which HR professionals are going to face going forward. And then obviously there are various nuances attached to that.
So I think thanks so much for putting that across. I've been a great subscriber of this philosophy also. Being a student of biology also to an extent helps. So 60-70% of people would want to come back to work, and this is not sustainable from how we are constructed as a human. And I think it would matter even more to, like, at least for me, I have a family around. I still get that dose of hormones and connect and warmth at home because I have people. But yes, imagine the plight of somebody who's all alone and not able to go out. There's no malls, there's no shopping complexes, there's no friends that you could meet. This is going to be difficult. And that's my hypothesis also, that 50-60% would come back. And with you completely, that it creates a lot of room for flexibility. And me and Senthil were having a conversation. The terminology I give to this is personalizing the experience and creating that smaller segments where different people have different needs and it brings together. I think that's going to be super amazing for HR as a function. I'm happy that I'm seeing this, apart from the difficulty that people are going through because of COVID. But this transition, I think, is helping me relearn, unlearn, and learn a lot of things that essentially we should focus on. But glad that you called it out.
Yeah, I think to add.
And I feel
to add one point. Yeah, to add one point here, right? So, like you rightly said, the environment was homogeneous, and now this would give birth to a lot of microcultures within organizations, and that also. It's not work from home only, right? It becomes like a work from anywhere, right? So some small groups will work from the beach, some small groups will work while they're traveling, and this of course, though it's great flexibility, it also poses a lot of challenges for the HR, and this would call for the individual's discipline to manage themselves better. That is when they can really pull off the actual work given to them on that day. Yes, Saurabh.
Just to add to what you and Ketan, you said, right? Definitely they're going to be, and I agree with you, Ketan, by the way, that, we are moving into that zone wherein personalized experiences is going to be the norm, right? Or essentially, as you said, there are going to get these microcultures which are going to get built. It's already building out. I'm already seeing it, right? So there are those micro or smaller groups within the organization. So there is a smaller group for, as I said, the bachelors who are staying alone, right? There's a small group and they are exchanging ideas, right? So that's going to happen. And I'm going to add a layer to it. So there is no way you're going to prevent this happening. You're going to create personalized experiences. You're going to have microculture getting created. But as I said right at the beginning, on top of all of this, you still have to have a connective tissue because it's still one organization, right? It's still one team, right? So how are you going to do that? That's the challenge. So, and I'm just, as you said, microcultures existed even in pre-COVID days when we were all under one roof, right? So every team had its own culture depending on how a leader would lead it, right? And Ketan, you and I have seen that in our retail days as well. So that was a given. But within that, there was still an opportunity to make sure that there is that overarching cultural unity amongst different teams because you were still sitting in under one roof, right?
Yes.
So microcultures will exist in a remote environment, and then you have to top it up with a unifying cultural bond in a team. That's a challenge. That's a real challenge which we're talking about here, right?
Yes.
And then top it up with and I'm a firm believer that any company culture has to be built on the foundations of trust and transparency. You can have various other values, but whether you call it out or not, you need to have trust and transparency in your culture if you want to build a strong organization.
Yes.
Forget about
Yes.
strong organization culture. Now, trust and transparency in a physical world, physical setup when we were all together, that itself was tough, right? And if I had a disagreement with Ethan, I could walk up and speak to him and clear my doubts or clear my angles, and you're done with it. Even then, it was difficult because people were reluctant to have conversations, and that's a different conversation altogether. But think about it: trying to build culture of trust and transparency in a remote environment or in an environment where teams are split up. It just adds even more pressure and adds even more complexity to the job of I won't say an HR professional, but jobs of leaders, because ultimately culture is driven by leaders in that sense. Hope that makes sense, by the way.
Yes.
Interesting.
Right. No, I think this calls for higher expertise from not only HRs, from leaders as well. Now they need to equip themselves to handle these kind of new people problems, right? So yes, microculture and the main founder's vision should coexist, and that's going to take a new strategy. And I think, like Ketan nailed it, we talked about this concept 3-4 months ago in terms of personalized engagement, right? At Culture Monkey, we're the first folks that we have some features, from within the platform as well, how to personalize engagement, right? So, and we recognize managers are the ones that can really personalize the engagement. And yeah, we can talk about it, but yeah, let's go to the next question, Ketan.
What is that? And this is more of a messaging or something for the people who are working in organizations and corporate. Now, what is the new thing as an individual need to be open to as we embrace this new world? This is more like not limited to HR folks, but generally people who are in the corporate. And what do you think are the things that have changed, and what are the things people should accept when in this next 1 year, 2 year, or a different way how the world has evolved?
Yeah, great question, Ketan. And I'll break it down into short term and long term. And short term is something which I can talk about because we have kind of done that in our organization and then also facilitated these discussions in our portfolio organizations as well. I think, the statement that we are in a new normal has almost become cliched in 4 months now. Okay. But I think what we realized very early on as an organization is that the fact that we are moving into a new normal is a given. Now, how long will it take to define the rules of this new normal is anybody's guess. Okay. But I think fundamentally as leaders, as managers, and then therefore as team members, it is important to first of all acknowledge that we're moving into new normal, and therefore if we are moving into new normal, there is an absolute need for you to revisit your priorities which you had set at the beginning of the year, right? As an organization, as a team, as an individual, and that's really the flow how I'll take it, right? simply because if you're acknowledging that we are moving into new normal, there is no way you can possibly still have the same priorities which you had in January 2020, right? So it starts with that. I think if organizations, if leaders have not done that, I think that possibly to me would be one of the first things you need to do is to go back to the drawing board and reassess and review that, given whatever we know of, and there's still a lot of unknowns here, including that, when are we going to come out of this and what that new normal would look like. But with whatever knowledge, information we have, try and define what the priorities are for you as an organization, and therefore trickle it down to your teams and individuals. I think that's one of the fundamental duties and responsibilities leaders and managers have towards organizations, their teams, and their team members. So to me, that's very, very important. And as you would imagine, it's not easy to do, right? Especially when you are running an organization, when you're running teams and you're running priorities, to suddenly come into this unknown and then be forced to think and reprioritize. It requires efforts, right? And reprioritize when there's a lot of unknown variables. But to me, that's your openness to do that, I think, will go a long way in how resilient you are becoming as an individual, as a team, as an organization. So to me, that's really fundamental, right? And I'm saying this out of experience because we've done this in our organization. We've done this, facilitated these discussions in our portfolio organization. That to me would be number one. Number two, and which I think, as I already pointed out, the need to communicate and over-communicate and figuring out various means and not shy away from using various means to stay connected with teams, with your peers, with your managers, and that I think is super, super important, because it just makes sure that your bubble remains in the center, right? And it's, as you were saying, it's very easy to lose it, especially when you're indoors, especially when you don't have your social connects, if you don't have your family around, and so I think your openness to communicate, irrespective of your mental makeup, right? And it goes beyond saying that I'm an extrovert or I'm an introvert. I think it is important to communicate, and right, whichever form and ways you choose. So that to me would be number two. And then connected to that is, making sure that you find out various means and ways to understand the pulse of the team, irrespective of the fact that we are still, we are working remotely, right? So management by working around is not possible, and therefore what are the alternatives? That's how I would put it, right? And being innovative about it. I don't think there is a cookie cutter solution just as yet, and therefore it is incumbent upon you to think, how do you make sure, how do you replace a water cooler conversation in a remote environment? And I think it's very important, both from a leader perspective as well as a team member perspective, right? So if you have the wherewithal to walk up to your leader and speak off your mind in a office setup, making sure that remains intact even in a remote environment is extremely important. Those three things I would say.
Coming to the last part of the question, it's kind of an assimilation of a lot that you have said, and at the cost of repeating myself, do you think the e-culture is the next future, or do you think it's already there? What's your thought? I'm adding the word e because with a lot of digitization, I think everything gets an e that comes across. But do you think it is here, or this is going to happen? What's your point of view on that?
So, okay, then honestly, I think technology is an enabler, and it should and it will remain an enabler. Now, when you talk about e-culture, I'm assuming you're talking about use of technology to enable culture in an organization. That's what you're trying to talk, right?
Yeah.
I think it's the need of the hour, right? I mean, we've talked enough of the fact that microcultures are going to get built up, and therefore you still need to maintain the connectivity. The fact that people are going to be working in different environments. If there's something which you can leverage to achieve all of that, I think technology is going to be the only thing which you can, right? So I don't think there is any shying away from the fact that there would be more and more use of technology to solve for some of the challenges which we've talked about in the last 30 minutes, to maintain or to create that unique culture in the organization. But to say, and I'm going to repeat what I'm going to say, that will it completely replace a face-to-face human connection? I don't think it can, right? And the kind of culture which gets built when 20 people come together under one roof and they create something unique, something meaningful, something exciting, something they can be proud of. And I'm talking beyond just a business success. I don't think that can ever be replaced by technology. But yeah, technology is really going to be the tool which will help us solve many of these challenges which we are going to face, or which we are already facing with this new normal being defined.
Thank you so much. This part, there's some 4 or 5 interesting questions, and it's kind of a rapid fire that we do towards the end, Saurabh.
Okay. You're putting me on a corner finally, huh?
Yeah, I think I enjoy this part the most. I get this opportunity to ask you interesting question. So the first one for you: if not HR as a profession, what would you have been?
I'll be teaching in a primary school. No doubt about that.
Wow.
And I will do that eventually. I'm very sure about that.
Wow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Cooking, cleaning, mopping during COVID, which was easier?
I still haven't tried cooking, and I don't think I can ever try cooking. It's beyond me. I've done, so you said cleaning, and what did you say the other thing?
Mopping.
Oh, cleaning was easier. Mopping is tough.
I'm with you on that.
Right.
Okay. What's that next big personal goal you've set for yourself? If it's not too personal to share in terms of a personal growth goal, kind of.
So I'm not the kind of person who sets these 5-year goals at all, Ketan. I have never been that kind of person. In fact, if you ask me what in next 2 years, I would still not be able to answer. And that's not how I've led my professional journey. God has been kind, and the opportunities have come my way, and I've taken them up. But yeah, from a personal side, last 3.5, 4 years have been really exciting. With my daughter coming in my life, and I'm trying my level best to be the best father I can. And it's still a learning journey. I would say it's still a journey there, right? So yeah, I mean, I think next 3, 4, 5, 10, 15 years, seeing her grow up and trying to be as best a father I can be is really what I'm looking forward to. Professionally, I will not be able to answer that question. Really, I really don't set my goals.
That's so sweet. Yes, that's so honest and sweet. Yes.
One book that had maximum impact on you.
So there are two actually, right? The one from a professional front, I think, and I advise this to pretty much everybody who asks me if there's one book which I can talk about, Crucial Conversations, right? And I firmly believe that every person should read that book. And on a personal side, I would say Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom.
Oh, nice. Okay, I have one more added to my list. And one thing you would personally like to thank COVID for?
Time with my family.
Yeah.
The amount of time it has allowed me to spend with my family.
Right.
All right, good guys. That's sort of for you. Saurabh, thank you so much for your time. It was an amazing conversation. Senthil, thank you. Guys, thank you.
Yes.
And hope we are able to add value. We promise to keep on coming back with a lot of content and a lot of insights from people who are going to shape up the HR fraternity.
Yes.
Thank you, Ketan. Thank you, Senthil. This was amazing. I truly enjoyed the conversation with you, and all the best in your journey. Would love to hear great things from Culture.
Yes. Let's connect offline. And this session, I think, was very overwhelming. Extraordinary points discussed. So yeah, this is going to be a great value for all our listeners. So thanks a lot. And let's take it. I'll connect with you, Saurabh.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Take care.
Yes. Bye.